First, let's talk some football with Chris Lowe. Chris, appreciate the time this morning. I know that a lot of people share your same line of thinking that Arkansas has the toughest schedule, not just in the Power 5, but all of college football. What do you think stands out about what Arkansas has to go through this year?
Two things jump out at me. And when I was doing that, I had several teams that I sort of narrowed it down to: Arkansas, Auburn, LSU. Vanderbilt's schedule's brutal too, and Indiana in the Big Ten. But I thought that the Hogs play two teams out of conference that will start the season ranked in the top 25. Cincinnati, who was in the playoff last year, and then they play at BYU, which is always a hard place to play, and it's a tough trip. I think the other thing that stands out, there's a 5-game stretch there for the Hogs, starting with Texas A&M and ending with Auburn. Now, they get a bye between BYU and Auburn, but there's a 5-game stretch there where 4 of those games are away from home. And you look at who they play. They play A&M. That's in Arlington. The next week, they have to come back home and play Alabama, 2 teams that will probably start in the top 6 or 7 in college football. Then the next week, they go on the road to play at Mississippi State. Then the next week, they go back on the road to play BYU, and then there's a break, and they go back on the road to play Auburn. That to me, if you look at 5 games in a 6-week window, is about as tough a stretch as you're going to play in college football.
Chris, we've talked about how difficult it is, and you just laid it out for it. But for the fans, they are so excited with 7 games being in Fayetteville, including some of the marquee games like LSU, Ole Miss, and Alabama. How attractive is this for the fan base side of things, seeing this difficult schedule? But their approach is, well, we got a bunch of great games to watch this year, especially at home.
No, it's a great home schedule for the Hogs and the fans. I mean, you got Cincinnati, too, to kick it off. I mean, that'll be one of the games to start the season with the eyes of college football will be on Fayetteville, with a returning playoff team. Now, I don't know that the Bearcats are going to be quite as good. I mean, I talked to Luke Fickell in the offseason. He feels like they'll be able to reload pretty well, but still it's a team that was in the playoff and went unbeaten until the playoff last year. And, again, I think it's always cool to start the season off when the eyes of the rest of the country are sort of going to be on you. Yeah. Everybody, I think, wants to see what Sam Pittman and that club can do after winning 9 games last year against the Cincinnati team. Can they follow up against an SEC team to open the season? And I think South Carolina the next week, you dive right into the SEC play. As you mentioned, anytime Alabama comes into town, LSU comes to town, Ole Miss, I mean, all 3 of those teams over the last few years have either finished the season right there near the top of the league or top of the rankings. LSU won it all in 19. Alabama won it all in 20. And of course, the Ole Miss had a 10-win regular season last year for the first time in history. So, no, I agree. I think it's a really attractive home schedule, but a challenging one. And it's one of those deals where if you're going to have another 9-10-win season, if you're the Hogs, you got to find a way to protect your home turf.
So to get to 9 or 10 wins, or to be back level with the win total and show improvement again this season, what are the 2 or 3 games, Chris, you think fans should zero in on, in your opinion, that are the swing games that are going to be the difference makers in 8 or 9 or 6 or 7?
I'll go back to right where it's sort of they really started to get their groove on last year, and that's against Texas A&M, that game in Arlington. I think that will be one of those games where if you win and you're Arkansas, with that stretch coming out on that we sort of outlined last few minutes ago, that's where you really have a chance to build some momentum. If you go on not on the road, but to a neutral site, and beat a team that's going to be ranked in the top 10, a team that, let's be honest, if you're Jimbo Fisher and you're an A&M, this is the year that everybody's pointing to, that if you don't make a playoff run or get to the playoff or win 10, 11-plus games this year, there's going to be a lot of restlessness there, in College Station. So I think that's one. And I think those last 3 or 4 conference games, because the Hogs have a chance, I think, to really finish strong. When you look at it, they've got they're in November. They play Liberty at home. They play LSU at home. They play Ole Miss at home, and then they end with Missouri. So if you go 4-0 right there, you win a couple of key ones. I think that stretch and that game against A&M in Arlington are probably, if you ask me, the key parts of their schedule. I'd say those 2 would be right there at the top of my list.
Chris, what are your expectations for KJ Jefferson? I think a lot of people would think that this offense for Arkansas and this team is going to go as far as he can take this offense this year. What's your thoughts on KJ, and what are you expecting out of him in the 22 campaign?
First I would say knowing Kendall Browse as I do and how good he is with quarterbacks and having another year around Kendall to develop, a whole off season to get better. I think he will be – there are two quarterbacks I think this year that will go from being really good quarterbacks to elite. I think KJ Jefferson's one of them. I think the other one would be Anthony Richardson at Florida, who played – now, he didn't play – Richardson didn't play nearly as much last year as KJ did, but both of those guys I think have the skill set to be, running the football, throwing the football, just terrific athletes to be the kind of quarterbacks no defense wants to face. But I can't emphasize enough, KJ having another year now. He doesn't have Traylon Burks to throw to. That's always one of those things you think quarterback, you want to have that dynamic game breaker coming back. But I still think he's good enough and versatile enough with his ability in the red zone and short yardage to run the football. He's got a cannon for an arm. I like the way when he is under duress or he gets forced out of the pocket. And I think he'll be better at this, at keeping his eyes down the field. I know Kendall Browse, that will be a priority for them. But I think just being more polished, being aware of where the pressure's coming from, where the trouble spots before the snap, those types of things. I think KJ will be a lot better quarterback, a much more polished quarterback, and a guy, again, that will benefit greatly from having a whole offseason and a whole other year under Kendall Browse and in that system.
We're talking with Chris Lowe, ESPN.com this morning. You speak to KJ Jefferson. A lot of people don't know that he had the number one deep ball of anyone in the SEC last year, over Bryce Young, over Hendon Hooker, which kind of surprises you if you didn't watch a ton of his games. But what are some areas, you talk about him going from good to elite, Chris, what are some areas that you really want to see improve in year two as a starting quarterback?
Well, first of all, you're right on the deep ball. He was as accurate throwing the ball down the field as anybody. And again, I think that's his ability to see, and he's got such a strong arm. I think the finesse throws, the touch throws, probably the ones that we in the media, Joe Fan take for granted sometimes, throws that don't look as difficult, but are difficult. Putting that ball right in a smaller window, right in the bucket. And even some of the throws that, on third down or third and short or second and short, that maybe you got to back out in the flat, or you've got a receiver, a tight end, making those throws that are layup type throws. Not that he was bad at that last year, but just being, instead of throwing 88, 90% of those throws, you're making up close to 100%. But again, the touch, the finesse throws, and again, I think he'll be better at those throws because he will have played more. He's got more reps. He's much more comfortable in what they're doing, and I think we'll see those type of plays that you don't have to throw the ball down the field all the time. That take what the defense is giving you. I think those are the steps that he needs to take and will take and will be better at. But he's such a force when you get the ball down close. His ability he's so athletic and so strong and so good at getting yardage when he has to get it on third and short in the red zone. You've always got, as a defense, you've always got to prepare for that. But as soon as you do that, you're sort of loading up the line of scrimmage. He gets one man-on-man coverage, and he makes you pay. So I really like him. I like his competitive fire. And I think the thing in a quarterback you always watch for is how the guys around him play. How much do they believe in him? How much do they rally around him? And you saw that last year as the season wore on, and I think that will be even more apparent this year.
Chris, you referenced something that one of our co-hosts brought up earlier. There's a 2nd and 9 play in the fourth quarter of that Texas A&M game last year where KJ is clearly hurt, and he drags one or two guys 2 or 3 yards to get the first down, basically seal up the game. And you saw the excitement from his teammates on the sidelines as well, and the fan base, because they finally beat A&M for the first time since 2011. From your readers and the overall SEC guys that you talked to, have you gathered a sense that there's restored belief in where this football program is heading and if they could actually challenge for the SEC West at some point under Sam Pittman?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I think Sam, look how quickly he's turned it around. I mean, when he got there, they lost, 20 straight SEC games? It's hard to flip a program as quickly as he has, especially one that was reeling the way the Hogs were. And I think he's done it. Really, he's done it in three ways. I mean, there's a belief there, a connection with the players, and you can see the way they play, how much they believe in Sam. I mean, number two, that they're physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. That's the way they play. And three, Sam, Sam had never been a head coach, and he'll be the first to tell you that's sort of the unconventional way now to go into the SEC and having not been a primary play caller. But he's smart, and he knew he needed to surround himself with good coaches. And you look at his staff, Barry Odom on defense. We talked about Kendall a minute ago on offense, and all the guys around him on positions. He really surrounded himself with good people, good football people, guys that can evaluate, guys that can coach. And I think, when you're a high school player, you want to play in that kind of system. You want to be in a program that's on that trajectory that they're moving up. And I think that's what the Hogs are doing right now. And the fact that they are, located where they are, I think they'll continue to be able to recruit Texas very well, because now you've got Texas, both Texas teams, the mainstays in Texas coming into the SEC. A&M's already there. Texas is coming here in a few years. So I think they will have a chance. Now, having a chance and unseating Alabama are two different things. And everybody on that side has tried now for several years to unseat Alabama. I don't think Nick's going to coach forever. I mean, I guess he won't. Who knows? Maybe he's coaching all the way until he's 85 years old. But at some point, someone's going to sort of make a run at him. And why not Arkansas with what we've seen him do in such a short period of time under Sam Pittman? I'm excited as a football fan to see, in the next 2 or 3 years with the way he recruits and the way they develop, where they can get to, having just done what they've done in, again, such a short window.
Chris, before you go, I wanted to ask you about Tennessee. They're not on the Arkansas schedule, but one of the biggest storylines right now in the Southeastern Conference. What's ahead for Tennessee with the NCAA and the allegations and their internal investigation, and where do you see Tennessee headed over the next 2 or 3 seasons?
The start under Josh Heupel was really good. I mean, they were a better team than I thought they would be last year, and I think most of it was because they run that offense, which is hard to prepare for. They go so fast and run so many plays and made so many big plays. And Hendon Hooker at quarterback, much like KJ Jefferson, I think will be a lot better in his second year as a starter, and he was pretty darn good last year. I think Tennessee feels good, that they finally got a notice of allegations. They sort of know what they're dealing with now. The fact that they were pretty aggressive on the outset when right before the new AD came in, the chancellor, cleaning house. I mean, everybody that was there during the allegations is gone. And they docked themselves 12 scholarships last year. They decided not to self-impose a bowl ban. They believe pretty strongly that they're not going to punish kids and coaches who weren't there during the time of the infractions. Now, the final say rests with the NCAA. Are they satisfied? Now, they said in the report that Tennessee's response was exactly what they would hope all schools' response would be. Does that mean they're going to go light on them and they're not going to hit them much harder? Here's my belief, if you ask me. I think Tennessee will avoid, because you didn't see that dreaded phrase, lack of institutional control, in the report. Had you seen that, then I think Tennessee would be in real trouble. You didn't. So my belief is they will be hit again with some penalties, probably some more scholarship losses, recruiting restrictions, but I do think they will survive a postseason ban going forward.
Chris, I know you've had a big week at Big Ten Media Day, so get some rest. We really appreciate you waking up early and joining us this morning.
I appreciate you guys having me. Have a good day.
All right, good stuff from Chris Flo, ESPN.
Partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's Wimbledon Finals, Major League Baseball, the latest fighting news, and even next season's early NFL futures. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV to get the bonus and get into the action. Bet online, where the game starts.